welcome to Roadside Rumours. I'm Sanika.
And I'm Kawal, and today we're here with
Alison Tan.
Hi, Alison. So as you all know, we're here today to talk about self-exploration, also known as masturbation, right? So Alison, could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. I am 29. I'm like a lifelong masturbator. And 2 years ago, I embarked on a year's journey to design the first oral sex toy with my husband. That is not on the market. It didn't continue after that, but I learned so much about sex, the sex toy industry, about my own pleasure through that experience.
What was your inspiration for the toy, or like how did you start on that journey? Like, did you discover like masturbation? How did you find out about it?
My sexual journey?
Yeah.
My whole sexual journey. Okay, so my sexual awakening as a child happened when I had a close friend. When you're that age, you have like two friends. So my best friend was a really good artist, and she developed a little faster than me. And one day she called me over and said, I want to show you something I've been drawing. And it was naked people. It was naked women, and then oddly like fully dressed men, but like interacting sexually with naked women.
Oh.
And I just remember looking at these pictures and feeling tingly all over, and I couldn't get them out of my head. And for ages after that, I didn't know what that was called yet, but I guess it was like early arousal. And I would think about these images, and I would start to conjure up images and hold them in my head that would make me feel tingly. And I didn't have the terminology for it then, but I know now what that was I was finding like my core erotic blueprint. I was finding the images and like the concepts that turned me on. And I started masturbating when I was 13 years old, and I found a website called TrueDirtyStories.com. I'll never forget it. It was a black background and a red font.
Oh my god.
Horrendous UX. And they were so called true stories of people's sexual encounters. And we had one computer in the family home, and it was in my parents' bedroom. So I would go on the computer and get the tingly feeling when they were out, or sometimes when they were taking a nap. But I didn't know what to do with this tingling energy. I just know that I liked it, and I wanted to like keep that sensation in my body, until I read on the same website this term masturbate. And I just remember thinking, like, all of this other language was so easy to understand, but this word had like 3 syllables, sounded so clinical. I had to look up what it was. And it turned out that I could rub parts of myself to come to something called a climax. So the first time I ever masturbated, I was standing up in the shower, and then confusingly I squirted. So can you imagine knowing nothing, having like no pleasure education, just TrueDirtyStories.com about people getting blowjobs in movie theaters, and all this liquid comes gushing out of me. But from that day on I was hooked. Like, I was always in the shower. My mom's like, why are you taking 6 showers a day? Yeah, it was full on from there.
But you know how you said you started reading first? I think that's really interesting, because for me it was just straight to porn.
Like, normally people go for like visual recording. Like, what do you call that? Like, they look at images or like videos to like help them, like for the arousal. But
and I think it's a little bit different for girls and guys as well, because I feel like obviously majority of porn is geared towards the male gaze, and it really doesn't do it for some people. But then I know a lot of girlfriends definitely started with reading. So was that something conscious, or did you just come across TrueStories.com?
I think it was the age I was at. So when I was 13, that was, quite a few decades back. Like video porn wasn't too easily accessible yet. It wasn't something that you just kind of knew when you got through puberty, which I think is the case now. And also there was the issue of like sharing a computer with the rest of my family. So I could quickly exit out. My parents didn't know what I was reading, but if something like there's no exiting out of that easily. Yeah. But I did graduate onto like LimeWire downloading porn. Quite soon after. This sounds like another era, my god.
So how has it been different from like reading versus LimeWire?
I love porn. Like I do really enjoy watching porn, but there is a part of my imagination that feels dulled from only consuming porn nowadays.
Okay.
When I read it, you conjured up these images in your head. And actually what I graduated to from TrueDirtyStories.com was Harry Potter erotic fan fiction.
I remember when Wattpad was a thing.
Yeah.
Have you do you know about Wattpad?
No. So much erotic.
Wattpad
on
is
Wattpad.
like these like people. You can basically create create an account and you can like write your own book. So people were like self-proclaimed writers in the book, and they used to write up their own stories. And smut was a thing, like you know when people,
smut,
and like fan, like what do they call like fiction?
It's all fan fiction, but it was YouTuber fan fiction or movie stars.
And I remember
it
like
was-
the most famous when I was on Wattpad, the most famous one was After, and there were like 3 books, and this person wrote it, like this teenager wrote like 3 books, and it became so popular, and it was about like Harry Styles, and all of us were like hooked onto it. It's like, wow.
Yes, it's all the scenes that you wish that these
Yeah.
movies or these books or maybe these fandoms had.
It's definitely more romantic initially. Like even though it's sexual, it has this intense romantic angle. So did you think that was important even when you started watching porn to have that kind of story?
I think story is important, but what I personally always want to get at is like a power dynamic. That's what turns me on. I like power play, so it could be like BDSM. It could be more psychological. I never read 50 Shades of Grey though. Like, oh, that seems a bit basic.
But yeah, like it's so interesting how you talked about the first time you heard of the word masturbate, and you were like so fascinated by it, because I remember like I saw this word as well, but I didn't like, I don't know why I didn't think of Googling it, but my first instinct was to like go to my cousin and ask her. So I used to go to the temple every Sunday. So Monday to Friday we're at school, and Saturday is just like at home. And then on every Sunday we used to go to the temple, and at the temple is where I would learn about everything that I don't learn about at school. So my cousin would just sit next to me, and I just remember like I would ask her like, oh, what does this mean? What does that mean? And I remember like there was like a prayer going on, and this is like, I don't know, 12 or 13-year-old me like just sitting in the temple with my cousin, and I just looked at her and I was like, hey, I heard of this word like masturbation, like what does it mean? And she was just like, bro, like shut up, like why are you like screaming this word? And then she like explained it to me, and she's like, for guys like they do this, and then for girls it's also called the DJing. And she was like trying to explain it to me in like the most like and like, you know, without like saying too much, and I was just like so like shocked while like, wow, this world or like this word exists. Like, yeah, that was my first encounter with the word masturbation.
And was her explanation accurate? Like, did it seem like she'd done it before, or was she passing on
I think
rumors?
No, like for me, like I think I just had a bond with her where I believed whatever she told me, because I feel like I never felt comfortable talking to my parents about these things. So she was like someone in my family that I could ask like questions or like share my experiences. But yeah, she was just trying to explain it to me like in a way that I would understand as a 13-year-old. So that's why I remember like she was like, for girl, like okay, so I asked her like, for guys it's easier, right, because they like hold it and then they rub it. And then I was like, what about for girls, like, you know, like how do we do it, whatever. I was like just asking her, and then she's like, yeah, so she used the term like DJing. And I was like,
it's a little bit easier for guys though, because I feel like for girls it's a lot more effort.
Oh, I don't know. I look at like the way guys' arms bulge sometimes when they're jerking, and I'm like, I'm definitely not like building muscle.
Yeah.
you
imagine
know?
like one side you have a lot of muscle and like the other side you don't.
Yes, that was always the joke.
Oh, really?
In high school, yeah, we would tease guys and be like, oh, he's like, that arm's bigger than the other. You know what that means, you know?
And you know, like how like the term itself for masturbation, like in Chinese, like we only have the term for guys. Like, is there a term for girls?
I don't know, actually. I don't know anything that I wouldn't say to my grandma in Cantonese.
So I know for guys there's like ta fei gay, which means like masturbating. Like ta fei gay.
Fake gay,
Yeah.
like hit an airplane.
I don't know. I mean, like if you directly translate it, that's what it means. But ta fei gay, it means masturbation. But I think it's mostly for guys. But it's so weird, like how there's no like term in Chinese language for girls, and I don't even know the language. I don't even know in our language what we call masturbation.
I don't even know what masturbation is. Yeah, it's because I think it's a cultural thing as well. I don't think I would ever talk to anyone in my family about it. So it's, I mean, let alone, I think sex, I don't even think I would comfortably talk about sex. So masturbation is just like an alien concept, I feel like.
Yeah, completely. But my mom found my vibrator when I was in high school.
Oh my
and it was
God.
horrifying. Yeah, there were like 3 major incidents where my sexuality was like they were confronted with my sexuality. And I feel like that's when I should have built shame, but I just never had. It felt too good. I just never had shame around it. She found my vibrator once, and she accused me of like not being a virgin, as if as if they were related. Yeah, and she caught me watching porn once, and she found my printed out Harry Potter fan fiction.
Oh my God.
So at that point, she once told me, "Alison, I always knew you were different."
So you know how you said that the first time you tried to masturbate, you squirted. So how was that? Because I feel like for the longest time I heard about it, and then I would just try for that climax, but it just never came not never, but like for a very long time. It was just so difficult to achieve because I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know who to talk to.
I didn't even know like what squirting was until like really, really recent. This is
not
like
even
so weird.
squirting, but just an orgasm in general.
Orgasm. Okay, I knew like people reach. Okay, I know guys reach their climax, and it's so easy, like, cause like they like all over the place. But like for girls, like I didn't know it was possible. Like I don't know. I just never. Until like really recent, like in recent years, like I figured it out. Like whoa, like even girls have orgasms, or like oh, girls can squirt. But like, how about your first like orgasm, or like how was it?
It's so true that like it's really hard to put into language like what a female orgasm is, and even when I talk about it now with friends, I don't think so I'm never sure if I've ever had a vaginal orgasm. And the way people describe it, it just doesn't seem like something that you can describe like very easily with language. You use words like peak, you use words like wave, and I'm like, maybe, but what's a wave for you versus wave for me? And squirting, I feel the same way about it's visible when it happens. So yeah, you know it's happening, but I still can't describe to my husband how to make me squirt. I can't do it to myself. It's something that has happened sporadically, like throughout my life. So I think the people to turn to may not necessarily even be like people who are squirting, but there are porn teachers that are all about the art of squirting.
I have some friends as well that are expert squirters, apparently.
Oh, like they themselves are okay. And
that's so cool, right?
Oh, that is really cool.
Yeah, and they're like, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. And I'm like,
Oh.
okay, but I don't know. Maybe it works for you, but I don't think it works for me.
Yeah, I imagine that some people must have like an easier time with it. Like there's the whole variation. But why is that something that you are interested in doing? Just to experience it?
I think it's kind of like the orgasm, because it's just like it takes so long to actually understand it, and then once you finally reach there, it's like, oh, that was so easy. Like then you can do it every single time because you just know how to do it. So I imagine squirting could be like that if you can make yourself squirt. But
I feel like if it happens like once in a while, I feel like that's where the excitement lies. Because if it happens every time, I feel like it just becomes like, oh, like it's done with again.
But then what's a laundry bill if you can do it every time?
Yeah, like I feel like the excitement for me like lies in like, oh, I can do it like sometimes, and then like I don't know. I feel like excitement is like when you can do it, you feel really accomplished. You know what I mean?
Do you feel the same about an orgasm in
No.
general?
No.
Because I feel like for me,
like to me, like squirting is like top of the pyramid. Like
of course, yeah, squirting, that's another level. But
It's so funny to me. Like you graduated, like
yeah, like I got my degree.
Why do your friends who squirt say that the squirting orgasm is the best orgasm?
No, it's just like you feel so like whoa, like I just did this, like wow. But like with an orgasm, it's like you don't agree with me.
No, it's not like I don't know. It's not like producing like mother's milk where you like it's not for anybody else. Like you can't take that. It's like gold, baby. Like
that's literally how I feel. Like gold.
I think it's just for me, it's just reaching new peaks.
Yeah.
because it's like with an orgasm now, any kind of sexual activity, I feel like is incomplete without an orgasm. But do you feel the same?
It took me it makes me proud, like in awe that you have said that, because it took me so long into my like sexual life with other people to value having an orgasm with them. And probably not until almost like my first year of college, until I had like a steady boyfriend that like really committed himself to making me come. But I didn't think, for the longest time, I didn't think that it was like worth the effort. I thought it took me a really long time, and like, oh, I'd be so self-conscious and in my head, and what I call what's called spectating. Like I would just, as someone was trying to make me come, I would like rise out of my body and like observe from the outside and be like, God, it's just taking, like, just fake it. I faked it. I faked it with so many people for so long. Yeah, because.
But is there a reason why women take longer than men? Like,
I don't think they have to. I don't think they necessarily do.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think so too. I don't think it's necessary. It's just if you're doing it right. That's why I think self-exploration is important then, because it's like once you know your body and once you know how it works, it shouldn't take very long, I guess. I don't think it's a time thing.
Yeah. And it's like the more you think about time, the longer it will take. So that's not the best focus for pleasure, I think.
Well, but like right now you're currently married, right? Yes. So does it still give you time to like have your own me time, or do you feel like your sexual life just is like a more bigger part of your life than the
masturbation is so key to like my married life personally. I know my husband doesn't really like carve out time to jerk it, but I absolutely carve out time. Like I think about, like I look at his schedule for the week, and if he's out for the night, I really look forward to like having a session with my magic wand. Yeah, because that gives me time to like fantasize, and it also gives me distance from a person. And I think a key component of eroticism in like these long-term monogamous relationships is having some mystery and some distance, which in COVID times, like I'll tell you, like my libido has never been lower because we were just in this apartment and I knew what he was doing every minute of the day, and we're in our pajamas like just farting around each other, like no intrigue there. So I think all masturbating throughout is good.
So what about the use of like sex toys? Do you feel like it's like achieving an orgasm is better if you use sex toys, or is it like the other way around? How do you feel about using sex toys while masturbating?
This goes back a little bit to why we decided to try and design Cunny.
Okay. Wait, do you want to tell us a little bit about Cunny?
Yes.
Yeah.
My current husband, but then boyfriend, and I were in a sex toy store, and he's a product designer, an industrial designer, and he was just like, isn't it interesting how like our phones, right? We're at iPhone X or iPhone, I don't even know what their latest iPhone is. But sex toys really haven't progressed beyond what we would call like, maybe the razor, to use the phone analogy. Like all sex toys are pretty much following two paradigms. One is the vibration motor, just in different silicone shapes, and the other is a dildo or like a plug of some sort, right?
For something to insert?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, sure. An insertion toy. And then there are like the accoutrement of like, clamps and bondage planes. But like in terms of clitoral toys that aren't designed for stimulation, we don't really have a bunch of options. Okay. And he's like, why is that? And in particular, why don't we have anything that really feels like oral sex? Because it's an amazing sex act if you're comfortable enough to receive it. Right. And that's how I most consistently orgasm. So that's what we set out to do. We set out to like create a toy that moves like a human like a human being would. So like, X, Y axis. You could personalize it. Your patterns in your phone. You could like try new patterns. You could send the pattern to someone else. It would like visually trace it out, so you could like send it to your partner and be like, just do this. Like, this is what I like,
So it's supposed to imitate someone eating, licking, right?
So
is it wet, the toy?
You would lube it up.
Oh, you lube it up first, and then you. Oh my god!
Yeah.
What? And then it moves.
And then you design the motion.
Yes, you can design the motions on like the pad of your phone. So I could be holding it, like holding the toy. It would have like a tongue tip, and it could just move any way that I made it move.
Is it soft, the tip, or is it?
It was squidgy.
But when did you use your first sex toy, and what was that experience like?
My straight male best friend in high school bought me my first vibrator. And before that, I'd just been using my hands or maybe my first sex toy was actually a shower head. Yeah, that, because like, you can adjust the pressure. But when I got my vibrator, it was like this gaudy hot pink leopard print, like just kind of bullet vibrator. And I remember thinking, oh, this is a lot less effort.
But do you think it did the same job? Like, were you happy with the vibrator?
Wait, I'm so sorry, but like for a vibrator, do you need to put it in somewhere, or you just like I'm?
You just hold it.
You just hold it?
Yeah, there are vibrators that you can
Next to your clitoris?
side. Yeah, you just hold it on your clitoris, I think. Yeah. Or well, next to your external clitoris, because
Okay.
the clitoris is actually one organism. One organism, Jesus. One organ. Yeah, so the outside
okay.
and the inside one. So I would just put it
Okay.
externally.
And you were saying?
Did I find it? I mean, I loved it, and now I like go back and forth between vibrator and hands just to like spice it up a little bit. But they're incredibly different. I think in order to come from a vibrator for me, I need something like stimulating like my mind. Like the vibrator doesn't feel good to me unless I'm mentally turned on. Otherwise, it can almost like tickle or irritate or even go numb. So that because this is so consistent, I need to be doing lots of like imagining many things in my mind, watching something, reading something. But with my hand, for some reason, I think like just the act of interacting with my own body in that way, like I kind of it gets me there more easily.
So with masturbation, do you feel like you always need some kind of stimulus, whether it's watching something or reading something, or can you just do it with your imagination?
I think because porn or like erotic literature is so easy to access, I think the muscle of my imagination has like weakened a lot, and it would have to be a really extenuating circumstance for me to use my imagination again, like being in prison, I'm just not someone that can say no to like immediate gratification.
Going back to your own product, like Kuni?
Yeah.
Sorry. So like, why do you feel like it's important for us to experiment with sex toys? Like, do you think it's important?
I'm gonna be honest, like I don't think sex toys are necessary to have a really fulfilling life and to like really understand your own pleasure.
Yeah.
But variety is the spice of life as well. So you can achieve different kinds of orgasms. They're amazing for different kinds of people.
Right.
If you have a certain disability where you maybe don't have that kind of like wrist dexterity, then sex toys can be godsend. If you're using it with a partner who isn't sure how to move yet, it can be really good. They are a supplement to your sexual health, but they are not by any means central to it. And anyone that tells you otherwise is trying to sell you something.
So like growing up, like we never really learned like how to like masturbate or like how to like use our hands or like, you know what I mean? Like growing up, we never taught like, oh, this is how you're supposed to do it, or there's no like step-by-step like manual to like do it. So do you feel like how do you feel like someone can learn? Do you think it's like a trial and error kind of thing?
Totally. Okay. So it is a trial and error thing ultimately, but the issue that you just brought up is now like really recognized, and there are people trying to educate. There have been people educating women on how to masturbate for ages. A website I really like is Oh My God Yes, just like OMG YES, and they've given like they put words and language around like the different motions of masturbating, and they're really easy to understand and applicable to everyone. And then you can also just watch real women like doing those moves. And I had a membership to that website briefly, and I already knew how to masturbate, but it gave me some new techniques, honestly. Like some new moves on myself. And the language around it was really exciting, and I just reveled in seeing the breadth of motions we can use. So I found it really liberating. But otherwise, trial and error is always a good way to go. And I think trial and error also comes really naturally to us. When I was a kid, I always remember this experience at a water park, and they had like water jets, in the pool, and I would hang out by them because I had just kind of discovered like where it felt good. But I also saw a little boy who was maybe 6 years old doing the same thing. I literally watched him. He like strode over a water jet, and he goes, "E," and then just like kind of hovered over that one area as well. I was like, oh shit, me too.
Just chilling by the water jet.
Yeah, just right here in this exact spot.
That's so interesting because you were talking about children masturbating.
That
As
sounds
wrong
so
as that
weird.
sounds.
No, but I think that's so true. So I came across this article saying that babies, it's like a natural thing. Like I think ever since like we were born, like we have this like curiosity, like you know, like different parts of our body, or like you know, like how like with babies they're so curious with like their hands or like their feet. So I feel like that's how they view their genitals as well. And when they start like touching them or like playing with them. So do you feel like it's natural, like since birth we have been curious about this, or do you think it's just something because we see on like social media or we come across these terms?
Like all beasts, we are pleasure seeking. Like we naturally tend towards pleasure. So why don't we have pleasure in the rest of our education? Like a lot, it's all up here, right? Our bodies naturally seek pleasure. Yeah.
Wait, do animals masturbate?
Monkeys do.
Oh.
Yeah, I know that monkeys do. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because then it's so natural. Because personally for me, it was only after people started talking about it. It was never something, because I know a lot of people have stories like yours where, you know, you're 12 or 13 and then you just kind of feel things and you just want to explore. But for me, it was more, my sexual awakening came after people started telling me about their experiences. And I was like, oh, I want to experience that too. That's so interesting. And then I try to look into it. What
Yeah,
about you?
same. Like, you know how you mentioned like the little kid or like you at the pool? Like when I was young, I feel like I was never really like in touch with my body. So I never thought about it, or I never like, or even if I had that feeling, I probably didn't give too much thought to it. But it wasn't until I actually found the word it wasn't actually until I found the word masturbation that I started like reading more about it. And now like I feel like there's like a better term, like self-exploration. I feel like I prefer this term much more, because I feel like the word masturbation just sounds like a lot, like it's just a mouthful. And with self-exploration, it's just like everyone's way of exploring their own bodies can be different. Yeah.
Yes, and it really I love that word. I'm going to start using that now instead, because it takes into consideration every aspect of your arousal, and that can be mental as well. I mean, I think it is as much mental.
Yeah, I agree.
As it is physical.
Do you think it helped you guys to start talking about these things with your friends? Because like I said, for me, when there was this one friend who had experienced an orgasm, or she claimed that she had, and I was like, wow, what is this? Tell me all about it. And then she was like, okay, let's sit down, we'll talk about it, I will give you all my tips.
Like the
I was
deets?
like, yeah, all the deets. And I was like, yes, please tell me. And then we had a conversation about it, and it just made me feel so comfortable, and it just allowed me to go home and then explore my body. Because until then, I had never thought about it like that. I only thought about it, like we were talking about it yesterday, how our genitalia and private parts in general in the culture that we come from are always like, don't talk about it, hush hush, like,
or like use other words to disguise the actual word. Like I've never heard of the word vagina or penis, or I didn't even know what it was called in my language until like a very later age, because we were always using like these weird sounds to like call like refer to it,
things like that. Did you have that growing up?
We in Cantonese we have Roadside, which is like birdie for
the
like
guys.
a guy's penis, but I don't know what mine was called. Gosh, maybe it's just like like a black hole.
So who were like the first people that you guys discussed these things with? I mean, for you said it was your
My cousin.
but-
Yeah. I hung out. I was not a theater kid myself, but I was like theater kid adjacent. Like I like painted sets. And true to stereotypes, the theater kid, like my friend group was like very promiscuous. We all like made out with each other and like fingered and like gave each other hand jobs and like all that stuff. And even in high school, we were having group sexual experiences.
What?
Wow.
Yeah. There was like a prom night where I think we were in bed with like 8 people at once. But this was all non-penetration. It's like I was ready to be slutty, but not that slutty.
In Hong Kong?
No, in Singapore.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God, not really. I'm really
scandalized.
Teachers.
Okay, what is that word? It starts with the C, like when you're eating pussy, but like
Cunnilingus.
yeah. So I heard this word and I was just like, what the fuck? Like, what does that even mean? And my friend was like, do you know like this happened in the toilet? Like some guy performed the cunnilingus on a girl, and I was like, what the fuck? It sounds like a ritual or like a ceremony. Like, what did they do? And then I like Googled it, and then I was like, what the fuck? There's something called like eating a girl out, and I feel like I was like, whoa. Like I feel like every
was also
time
horrified when I first heard of that.
okay, like I feel like going down on a guy, it's quite like normal, and like I feel like you see it on like movies, but like going down on a girl, like I hadn't seen it until oh, I can't believe that was the first word I heard related to this. But like I heard that word and then I Googled it and then I read about it and then there were like all these other terms that popped up and I was like, whoa, like this is like this whole new like someone can make a dictionary out of these like these words.
Let's do it. A sex dictionary.
Although I find it really upsetting that like cunnilingus or like oral sex on women isn't normalized until I think fairly recently. It's like very much in the cultural like collective consciousness now. A project I would love to do is to like build a shrine, maybe online or physical, to people that like eat women out. Well, like I think it needs to be appreciated. I think we can make offerings that who do it really well, who like really dedicate themselves to it. Like my husband being one of them. Like the first time that you have someone go down on you that loves to do it, they're not trying to get you to come to like stroke their own ego, they're not trying to get to like penetrating you or like another sex act.
They love to do it.
People who want to spend like an hour down there and then you're at a place where you can like accept that worship. There's just nothing else. There's nothing else
more important than that.
Yes.
No, but do you feel like it's more of like a give and take? Like if your husband, like say he enjoys going down on you, do you feel like the need or like the obligation to like do the same for him?
It's just very specific. He doesn't come from oral sex, so I guess in a way I'll do it only as foreplay or going to something else. But yeah, I would grow old down there. I'll try to, or maybe I need some technique. I don't know. Yeah.
But going back to sex toys and the relationship, do you think it's important to use sex toys during sex with a partner, or do you think it's something to experiment with?
Great thing to experiment with if you're long distance, or like even in COVID times, there are Bluetooth like long distance sex toys now. So it could be so fun if like you could still communicate with your partner in that way. I think if you're a bit kinky, like sex toys will open up a whole new realm for you. The one that I love, I haven't tried it yet, but it's where you put like a vibrator in your panties and then they can control it.
Oh, I've heard of that one
on
too.
Their phone. Yeah, it looks really fun, and I just imagine liking a table.
There's like a movie in there's like an Indian indie film I think that talks about like it's called Lust Stories. Have you watched it?
Yeah.
And in one of the stories, it's like the woman's husband can control the vibrator, or like her boyfriend can control the vibrator, and she's like sitting at home with this like super conservative Indian family, and suddenly she starts like feeling stuff, and she starts like shaking, and everyone is just like, "What is going on?"
But it's so funny because in reality, it's the grandma of the house who's trying to look for a TV remote,
and she's
like,
controlling the remote.
Why can't I turn the volume up? This is a TV. Go up. She keeps turning the vibrator
up,
thing
like the strength up.
God.
Rolling
But I mean, also during sex, like, because I have some friends that use it with a partner, like while having sex. Do you have any opinions on that?
No, just especially if you're having sex with like the same person, usually, and you're the kind of person that's like turned on by variety,
or like adventurous.
You want to find every way possible, like every paradigm, because repetition is the death of eroticism. I think like too much repetition. Yeah.
What about like masturbate? Like, have you ever masturbated with someone, like your husband, like in the same room? I don't know.
Totally.
Like,
when we're hungover, sometimes.
when you're hungover.
Yeah, like he doesn't want to kind of get up and get athletic with it, and like I sure as hell don't want to, so we kind of just lay there, and it's a nice way to like still
bond.
Connect.
Because my friend, she was traveling and she got to know these like girls, and I feel like she started feeling comfortable with them because they were like talking about like masturbating or like their sexual like shenanigans. So they were just like talking, and then I feel like so she told me that it was like a bunk bed in a hostel room. So all like two of them, they were on the top bunks, and they played porn or something on the same laptop, and they both masturbated in their respective beds. And she was like, that was such a new and cool experience for her.
Wow.
Yeah. So like they opened like I don't know if all four of them masturbated together or just the two of them.
So interesting.
But it's like they opened like one screen and they like all masturbated together, and they like talked about it afterwards, like how the bed was shaking or like how they felt or like which part like aroused them the most, and they like discussed it afterwards. How about with your parents, like growing up? Did you ever talk about it?
I think there should be a limit. I think parents, to me, so I'm gonna like I'll probably have kids one day, and I've thought a lot about how active or how graphic or how specific I want to get with them about sex education, knowing that schools are doing a horrible job at it. I want to prepare them for most importantly to understand consent, and I think that begins super early on. There's this woman who works at Sally Coco in Hong Kong, shout out to Candy, who has 2 young sons, and she did a great roundtable discussion about like sexuality and consent with her kids, and they were there as well, you know, talking about their experiences with it. And she said ever since they were really little kids, consent begins with, I'm full, I don't want to eat this anymore, you know, and that's okay. Or with, you know, at family gatherings, handing, like in Chinese culture, I'm sure in most cultures, like you just hand your kid off to like a family member, whether or not they want to, and they'll be like clinging to you, you know. And she said that never was the case. I would ask them, do you want uncle to like hold you? And if they didn't, she would never make them. She'd be like, not now, you know. And I love that. I would like to draw the line there. I also think pleasure, just telling them you should feel good. Forget you're going to see a bunch of stuff out there. You're going to watch a bunch of porn. You're going to hear what other people are doing. What is key is that you stay in touch with like your pleasure. And that doesn't always mean safety. That doesn't always mean like 100% textbook good feelings. Some of the most erotic situations in my life, it's not politically correct to say it, but they haven't been the most there are experiences I've had that like could be considered violating in some ways with a different context, but I find them really erotic because at the core of it, like I haven't been violated. You know, you get to decide that for yourself to an extent.
Yeah.
So just keeping in touch with that. But to overly explain to your kids is to perhaps kill
The vibe.
the eroticism.
Maybe they don't want their like mom like shove it like snooping around like and
I don't know. I think the lines are really blurred because I feel like there should be some kind of conversation, but you're right, like not too
like too
'cause-
much.
Can you imagine if your mom sat you down and like showed you how to like suck a dick? You'd be like,
Traumatized.
you'd be like, I don't, because then your mom would be in your head the next time you were doing it. Like you just don't want to create these strong graphic associations.
Yeah, that's so true.
Oh my god.
Focus on like safety and like normalization
And like consent. Yeah, I think that's so important. Yeah.
Yeah. To wrap up from your years of masturbation and trying to create.
Wait, when you publish this, can you have like a little title come at the bottom and be like Alison Taylor, like masturbation enthusiast?
Professional masturbator.
Professional masturbator.
But yeah, from your experiences, what are the things that you've learned, and do you have any advice for people like young masturbator? This whole thing just sounds so wrong.
Oh my gosh, to all the young masturbators out there, I think keeping an open mind about everything is important, so you don't shame yourself for where your erotic desires like take you, unless of course it's hurting somebody else. But if I could share some of, I mean, if my search terms were ever published, I would have a lot of explaining to do. I went through a clown phase, like I'm not gonna lie, and there's just no point in making yourself feel bad about it, but also educate yourself on like what's real and how your fantasy life is separate from reality.
Right.
It's okay to have like a thriving fantasy world because that is all happening in your head. Like consent is not like necessarily an issue in your own mind. However, when you go into the real world, you're going to have to navigate an entirely different set of rules. So don't worry about emulating what people do professionally. Ask. The hottest thing you can do with an actual partner is ask. Masturbation is your own like realm.
Journey.
Yeah, it's your own journey. Do whatever you want.
Thank you so much for sharing everything today, and I think we both learned a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was really funny like hearing all of your experiences, and we certainly hope that this can inspire young masturbators to, you know, start on their own journey. Yeah. Thank you.
Such a delight talking to you both. I am in awe. I'm so glad that that you guys are talking about it and like starting this conversation, and I've laughed so much that I'm like sweating.
But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon on another episode.
Bye.
Bye.